Good evening, everybody. Welcome to a very special episode of Your Health Matters. My name is Jenna Sarin, and I have the privilege of serving as the healthcare agency's Chief Nursing Officer. And I'm here tonight co-hosting with our health officer, Dr. Regina Chincio-Kwong, who many of you know, of course, as Dr. CK. We are so excited to be here with you tonight. We are actually, as you can tell, not at our regular location. We are visiting our healthcare agency's environmental health test kitchen, and we are going to be discussing, sharing, educating you on a lot of different food items, and we're going to actually be doing some cooking. This is certainly out of my comfort zone, as my colleagues and friends know, but we're so excited to bring this episode to you and to be able to spare the special time, especially around the holidays. We do have some special guests with us that I'd like to introduce you to this evening. So Dr. Patricia is joining us, and many of you may recognize Dr. Patricia was here with us some weeks back doing a show, and we're so grateful that you've come back, and certainly look forward to hearing more about your practice and your expertise working with families as we explore so many of our healthy foods and healthy cooking options. So thank you again for being here.
Thanks for including me.
And then here, also joining me from our environmental health department is Gree Wessenberg, who is an environmental health specialist. And we're actually calling this Gree's Kitchen because Gree does a lot of work in this kitchen with our staff here at HCA. So thank you so much, Gree, for letting us use your space to bring this show to our audience. Before we get into some of our content, I wanted to turn things over to Dr. CK, who's going to share a little bit more about the whole reason behind tonight's episode and some of the things that you can expect to see. So Dr. CK?
Thank you so much for sharing all this information. And so we actually went to the grocery store yesterday and explored many different varieties of vegetables and fruits that are available right here in our own backyard. And it's so important to eat healthy, but in order to eat healthy, you need to know what foods are available. And when we talk about healthy eating, it's important to eat the color of the rainbow. And if you can see on our table, we've got almost every single color of the rainbow, including purple, which is not a unique, it's a unique color. But it's very important for everybody to get involved and learn how to prepare food. It actually can save you a whole lot of money if you know how to do it right. And we know that it's been tough this year. So it's really important to keep everybody healthy, safe, eat fresh fruits and vegetables. It's also a way to gather and, just enjoy the time together, especially through this rough 2.5 years. So really, this is a special episode, and we want to share some of our favorite dishes with you. I'm actually going to share a traditional dish from the Philippines that can easily be done with any culture. It's actually involving the squash, or a type of pumpkin, as well as a green bean. I actually grew up with squash in my backyard. So, these are great dishes that anyone can learn how to cook and change it up with the fruits and vegetables that they have. Thank you.
Thank you. And before we get started, I definitely wanted to be sure that we talk a little bit with Gree, because again, part of our work, once we've identified some of these great foods to cook, is assuring that we can help ourselves and certainly help our public be able to do things safely. And our environmental health department does such a great job with this kind of education, both for individuals, businesses, et cetera. So Gree, would you be so kind to tell us a little bit, now that we've bought all of these things, what is the safest way that we can do this? And how do we need to handle these kinds of foods and assure the most appropriate safety that we can provide?
Well, thank you for being here today. We had a great time yesterday. We started out by getting all our food back to the kitchen safely. We went out shopping, picked out our groceries, picked out our vegetables, picked the meats last, then went back and put in the fridge. So now that everything's put away safely, we want to make sure that we're clean as well. So we want to wash our hands often. You want to wash before you cut your meats and your foods, and you want to wash after. You also want to do the same with the utensils, right? Because they're going to be cutting all the different foods. And I see you already have cutting boards out in different colors. That's a good idea. You can have red for meat. Or if you don't have different colors, try to keep them separate, right? Try to keep separate areas for different foods. You don't want to cross-contaminate. You want to keep everything separate. You want to make sure it stays cold or hot, and you want to make sure you cook it properly. So we didn't buy a turkey yesterday. We do have on our website, we have information on the turkeys, how to cook turkeys properly, and we are going to make leftover later with chicken, right? You're making chicken.
That's correct.
So for those of you who are cooking turkey, which will probably be many of you, there will be information on our website. So keep everything clean, keep everything separate, cook it hot, and cool it down. And we're going to talk about leftovers later as well.
Wonderful. Well, these are great tools because, again, I know there's so much information sharing that goes on, and we really want to have the opportunity, if you're interested, to please visit our website and you can review some of those materials. We're so excited to show you some of our shopping videos, but before we do that, I really wanted to take a minute to hear from Dr. Patricia. I know you have dedicated your career to our families and helping individuals really, start to develop health patterns and some of these things that are so important. Would you mind sharing with us a little bit about your work and how this kind of all incorporates into that?
I'd love to. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I guess the big thing is for me is most parents just want to know how to feed their children healthy. And I think having a variety of fruits and vegetables in their diet on a regular basis is just the best way to start. I don't think anyone needs to be told to have proteins or rice or anything like that, but fruits and vegetables. So if we can add fruits and vegetables to meals and snacks, that's ideal. And the great thing about going to the kitchen the way we did, or to the grocery store, was that we saw these different shapes and sizes and colors of foods that I hadn't seen much. And so bringing kids, getting them involved with cooking and the preparation, they can practice their colors depending on how old they are. They can, identify different shapes. And then you can bring these fruits and vegetables home and they may or may not eat them, but just getting exposure to them, talking about them, picking them out, finding out their names, finding out what nutrition they have, drawing a picture of them. There's so many ways that kids can relate to them. We even use some of them to decorate the table, which would be a great thing for kids to do. And so as we expose our kids more and more to these fruits and vegetables, then they're going to be more likely to try them.
Wonderful. Such great tips and so true, right? Especially at this time of year when we have all this family time, a great ways for families to connect, even in the grocery store. Speaking of grocery stores, I want to give a very special thanks to our friends at the 99 Ranch Market. We did a lot of shopping, and not only were they gracious to invite us in, but the education that they provided to us about some of these fruits and vegetables that we weren't as familiar with. And I think in Orange County overall, we're just so lucky that we have such a variety of different types of markets, specializing in so many different kinds of foods. So wherever you're at in the county, take a look, visit your local stores, farmers markets, these kinds of things that are available to come up with the produce section. And again, take your kids. So with that, please join me as we take a look at our first video. I'm so excited because I am not a cook at all. And this is the time of year when there's so many different leftover options. And so one of the things I'm learning to make is just an easy soup. And I'm actually going to put about 10 different veggies in it. And then some leftover turkey or chicken or whatever is available. Of course, assuring, if it's that same day, I just thought that'd be a good use and a really great way to get kids, especially to eat vegetables, right? We can hide them in a soup. So one of the things my family really likes is the baby bok choy. I tend to use this a lot in just looking at options of something different. And I feel like it's not quite as bitter sometimes as something like spinach, and I can hide it a little easier.
And they have different versions of the bok choy. So there's ones that are more white on the bottom and green on the top. Those are a little bit more bitter. So you're making the right selection. The green ones are actually a little bit more sweet.
Oh, good. Thank you. That's helpful. I didn't know that. And then, of course, green beans are always a really good staple. And I like to use the fresh ones and just trim the ends off and cut them up and throw them in there. So I've got this type of green bean. What do you have, Dr. CK?
So I have what's called a Chinese long bean. It's also called an asparagus long bean. It actually packs a whole bunch more nutrients. It has a lot more fiber. So I'm going to actually add this in my dish that I'm preparing.
Great.
And I actually also got a purple variety.
Great.
So I'll show you how to cook that.
Okay. And they are about a foot long, right? If they're like
Yes.
open and stretched out.
These are a foot long, but they don't go with every dish. There's only specific dishes they go with. So I agree with the soup. I would go with
this one?
with that one.
Okay. I definitely need a celery base. So I'm going to use celery and a brown onion with just some olive oil cooking spray that we can just kind of brown these up and, get them to clear and start that off. And then a soup wouldn't be a soup without a fresh carrot. So definitely going to peel, chop these up into bigger chunks. And again, I think depending who's home and eating it would matter what amount we use, because my husband is not a fan of cooked carrots, but my kids love it. So we'll figure out a way to do that. Yeah.
I noticed too, all this is going to be cooked in your soup, right?
Yeah.
Now, I was walking around and I saw this really good lettuce. The difference between this mix and those is that this is pre-washed. It's actually triple washed, and it even says on here. The difference is if you're making something, especially around holiday times when you're cooking turkey, other raw meats, it can get splashed around when you're cooking or chopping it, right? So having something like this that you can keep completely separate is a good idea sometimes, so that you don't have to cross-contaminate. Because remember, this is a ready-to-eat food. It's not going to be cooked. There's no kill step. So it's already washed. So then we can keep it in the box as long as possible before preparing it.
We've got regular cabbage and what looks like Napa cabbage.
Yep.
I actually prefer this type, but what can you tell me about like helping pick one out, Dr. CK? Because
I like
sure.
looking for one that has a lot of light green instead of yellow. And I want to make sure it looks really fresh. So this is actually a nice, good head of lettuce.
Great. All right. Well,
Or
hopefully
Napa, not lettuce, Napa cabbage.
Great. Well, hopefully we won't do too much damage, and we'll see how this soup turns out.
Yes.
Wonderful. Well, welcome back, everybody. We're so excited, and we hope you enjoyed seeing a little bit about our shopping trip. I'm actually going to kick us off here with our first recipe. And I'm taking this because I am certainly in the novice to expert scale. I am on the novice end of things. And I'm excited, though, to share with you one of my family's staples, which is really just an easy vegetable or an easy vegetable leftover soup. And there's really no way you can go wrong with this. So we've got some fresh ingredients here to be able to showcase for you some of the things we've included. Everything from green beans, zucchini, tomatoes, carrots, cabbage. We've got some baby bok choy, which is another staple here. And we also have some celery. So very basic. And in addition to regular cabbage, we had a whole discussion yesterday at the market. You may have seen around Napa cabbage. So lots of different colors, and Dr. CK actually helped us pick out kind of the best cabbage that we could. So wanted to share a little bit of what we're going to be putting in here today. Again, you can use your leftovers. Tomatoes are great. Certainly some onions and garlic as an easy base. And then in terms of getting your broth together, there's so many different options. I mean, we have turkey broth, we have chicken broth, we have vegetable broth. And I think what's most important is remembering you want to go with the low sodium, right? And you don't also have to purchase a broth. You can go with a basic chicken. If you're going to cook your chicken, you can certainly create your own broth. And then when you're doing your veggies, you can, start with a water base and add a little bit of salt and pepper there. So wanted to focus on that. So before I get started, I'm certainly going to make sure I follow the rules. And I'm going to step back and pull my hair back here a little bit and then wash my hands so that I can get my gloves on and put some of this together. And just do a quick.
We don't sing happy birthday anymore.
I'm not going to sing,
20 seconds from away.
There we go, with nice warm water.
Kids are now familiar with this in the kitchen.
Grab paper towels first and then turn off the knobs with the paper
And
towels.
thankfully,
We've gotten used to that over these last
an auto towel here. That's good. So with that, I'm going to come on back over and I'm going to put my gloves on. Now, before I start, I am actually going to assure that these are going to tear on me. Of course they are. So let's start again here. And we're going to put this on.
And you can also actually, if you wash your hands properly, you can actually skip the gloves. It's a preference if you don't want to get dirty either. But,
perfect.
Yep.
So with this, and again, I know when we're handling containers, technically we would trade our gloves on and off, but just a little bit of an olive oil spray here. And this is what we're going to use to kind of start with our base. And I'll take these off and change out. And then I'm just going to go and demonstrate all of the veggies. Now, as we said, you absolutely could add some leftover chicken, turkey, something that you choose. I think as Gree highlighted earlier, make sure whatever you're going to cut with though is a different cutting board. So I'm going to keep this as a veggie option for us here. But if you did want to add the meat, anything that you have, you want to make sure that you're using an appropriate technique with that, right? So with this, we would put in a few cloves of garlic. You could put your onion base, certainly your celery. And basically, we would be stepping over and go ahead and heat all this up and get it to clear, nice and soft. And with that, then I would go ahead and start to create my base. So for me and my family, we like to use a vegetable base. Again, we tend to add a lot of water. I know we've got a lot of water-filled vegetables here, so these are by nature going to make that a little bit easier as they start to cook out. But we'll go ahead and add a veggie broth. And we've got a product over here that we're going to show you to cook up. But with this, we would be able then to go ahead and start adding, and it's just this easy, right? Nice containers. When I'm traveling, we tend to use more of the plastic and easy to dispose.
So was that like a canned tomato or was
It's actually this, you can use canned tomatoes.
Okay.
But in this case, I actually use some Roma tomatoes that I kind of just cut up and mash to get the juice.
Okay.
But canned is just as easy.
Yeah,
So,
I was going to say that's kind of a nice, easy way of doing it.
and like I said, I love these when we're traveling because they're just easy to stack. I'll put a little less corn. And this is a basic cabbage, but again, you can substitute with Napa, and there really is no mix. Like my family, they love green beans. My husband is not a fan of cooked carrots, but my daughter loves them. So they can pick out if they don't like it, right? There's really no harm here. One of our favorites is actually the baby bok choy. And I find that, Dr. CK, can you share a little bit what you told me yesterday when we were shopping for the bok choy? Because it was something I wasn't aware of.
Right, so there's different colors of bok choy, and then there's different ages of bok choy. The mini baby ones are sweeter. They're more tender. So if you want a sweeter flavor, you can go for the baby ones, but particularly the green baby ones. So the green stem here is a sweeter flavor. But if you want more of a bitter or not as much taste, then you go with the white stem. But either way, it's really good for soups or it's good for stir fry.
Perfect. Yeah. And that was so helpful, right? Because I assumed there was one type and one only, and I didn't know that. Right. So,
and also for this one, if you were to add the chicken, right? So let's say we had the chicken or turkey, right? Could be turkey. Last night, you would not leave it on the table for a long time, right? That would not be good. You want to cut it up in smaller portions, put it in the refrigerator and cool it down rapidly, right? So make sure it cools quickly. And then once it's cold, when you're going to use it today, if you are adding something that is actually a leftover, it is important to actually cook it to proper temperature. Mm-hmm. So you need to cook it to 165 degrees. It needs to be really hot if you're adding something that's previously cooked. In this case, you have only fresh ingredients.
Perfect.
How do you know if you're not using a thermometer that it reached 165 in a soup? Like when it goes to boiling and it's been boiling for 15 minutes, about what temperature?
Yes, when it's been boiling for a long time. You have met that because it was leftover smaller portions too. So it's already been cooked. You're just reheating it again.
Well, and I think that's a great point because so many families, my family, everything, they really like the temperature very hot, right? So they won't eat it unless it's boiling coming right out. But when I was reading, because I knew I had to read, right? Since this is the novice side of me, I was reading it was 200, it could be up to 200 degrees. Again, about 30 or so minutes just to get the vegetables soft, right? So I think for my children, this has always been a really easy way to get them to eat veggies. And depending who's home, we know what we're going to put in there. One of the things that I do in this recipe that I really like, and I actually learned, I've always been into the canned water chestnuts, but Dr. CK introduced us to some fresh water chestnuts as well.
I don't think that was me. I think that was 99 Ranch.
Okay.
I think I picked those up from the table.
So here we go. See, we had something that we learned and we didn't even know about. But what I think has been so great is you wouldn't expect necessarily something crunchy always, right? Because we kind of cook the soup till the veggies are soft. But the water chestnuts just give it that nice crunch that is a little bit different. And I've also thought, we have some families in our neighborhood that have really young children who may not like, the whole veggies. So this, you could even almost use like a hand blender and make it into a puree too, right? It's just an easy way to get a bunch of veggies in. Not a lot of salt. You can do a little bit more. And earlier we were talking about spices in particular. I'm not a fan of really hot food, but my husband is. So you could add some chilies and, like we were saying, maybe even some lemongrass or something to give it a little bit of a different flavor. So with this, I think I, want to make sure that everybody knows, again, there's nothing that you can go wrong with here. And you can just put this on the stove and get it up to the right temperature, about 30 or so minutes. So with that, I'd like to now have us go in and enjoy another video where you get to see a little bit more of our shopping before we go to our next recipe.
So as a vegetarian, you love to eat mushrooms, right?
I do. I try to find meat substitutes. I'm familiar with one or two of these. I use them, the portobello I use a lot, either as a hamburger substitute or in salads. I haven't seen a lot of these. Are they for roasting or?
So if you like using portobello mushrooms for roasting, actually the king oyster mushroom, that really big mushroom here, is really nice. You just cut it thinly and you roast it.
Roast it,
very
slice
similar.
it. Any salt, pepper, anything on there?
To your liking.
Okay.
It has minimal flavor, but it packs a lot of protein. If you want a mushroom that has a lot of flavor and has a lot of nutrient value, then you would go for the shiitake. I just like cooking it over a cast iron skillet.
Okay.
With minimal addition. So usually I'll just slice it thin and put it over a cast iron skillet with a little bit of salt and pepper. And that packs a lot of flavor.
That sounds really good. We probably wouldn't have a lot of leftovers, but I know you said protein. So once you have protein in your food, you do have to, if there's any leftovers, you do have to put it in the fridge afterwards because it can go bad and grow support. Keep that in mind. A lot of people forget about mushrooms. It's actually being potentially hazardous once cooked. So that's important.
Right. And I usually like to immediately cook them. So typically, if I'm going to buy mushrooms, I usually cook it within 1 or 2 days after purchasing. Right. And then put it in
they're
the
still
fridge.
fresh and then.
Right. And you see all these other varieties. These are actually really good for sauteing with other vegetables or throwing them into a vegetable soup.
Right. And I see them in stir fry sometimes.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
That's good. So basically for mushrooms, cook them, serve them right away.
Right.
If you do have leftovers, put them in the refrigerator.
Yes. Welcome back to Your Health Matters, OC. We are talking about cooking today, and I am sharing one of the staple dishes in the Filipino tradition, but it can actually be applied to anyone, really. As mentioned, I actually growing up a whole lot of things in our backyard, and one of the staples that we grew in our backyard was actually the squash. So this is actually the kabocha squash, which I guess is a Japanese name, but it's basically a pumpkin. And it's very starchy, and you can see that orange, it's a yellow or orange color, and it's packed with vitamin A. So it's a great source. I'm going to show you how to use it because it really takes some experience to use it. But I am going to wear my gloves just to make sure I handle things carefully. And as you see, I will be using a cleaver to cut this baby. But I have a lot of different vegetables. So preparation is everything. And while I did prepare everything ahead of time, as Gree mentioned, it's very important to separate out your vegetables first. So I actually like to use coloring boards or just do things separately. So I usually will do, well, onions go last because they make you cry, but this is actually one of the ones that I do first. And so the kabocha squash is hard. You can boil it first and it's easier to peel, but if you don't want to boil it, I just want to show you how to open it up and cut it. You can either bake it and saute it, but I use a cleaver.
I'm a surgeon.
And you have to be very careful, of course, or you can actually ask your grocery store to, cut half of it to make it a little bit easier. And when you cook it a little bit, it's just easier to cut open. But anyhow, when you cut it open, you'll see it has a lot of seeds and you can easily just remove those seeds. You can actually use these seeds and dry them up and take away some of the pulp. And then the easier way to get rid of the skin is to use a peeler. I actually, when I was younger, would use a knife and that can be dangerous. So the peeler makes it really easy to peel off this layer. But again, if you want an easier way, you could just boil it first and then it easily comes off. If you know that it wasn't exposed to a lot of pesticides, you can actually just cook it with the green. So this is one of those squashes that you can actually eat.
And it was washed ahead of time anyway.
Yes.
So that's good.
We washed it ahead of time. While I'm using it in this dish, you can actually just cut it up in thin slices and roast it directly like this. So many different variations of how to use this. I actually already pre-cut it. So I pre-cut it into about 1-inch cubes because it just makes it even easier to cook. The other interesting ingredient that I'm going to introduce here is the long bean. So the long bean or asparagus bean is another name for it, is a type of green bean that packs in a lot more vitamin A than your usual green bean. It's more earthy in flavor and it's available in different Asian markets. They can grow into like a yard long green bean. Wow. I found different variations. So you can get the green bean and you can also get purple.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And purple has a lot of antioxidant properties. So I actually found this at a local market. It's actually cheaper than the green one. And I'm all about deals. So prepare this. I usually will cut off the tips. Of course, rinse it first and soak it to make sure you get all the dirtiness away from the bean. So I cut off the tips and then I just cut it in about 4-inch or 3-inch sections, just like this. And as you see, I already cut some up. And while the recipe has different cups or serving sizes, really, when I cooked this dish when I was younger, it's whatever I had. So if it was a bundle of green beans, if it was a small squash, I just threw things together. So the Filipino culture uses a very traditional sauteing skill that actually came from the Spaniards. So there's a lot of similarities with a lot of the Spanish cultures. So we start out with sauteing garlic and chopped onions, and you just saute that until it's translucent. And then after that, I love to dice up some tomatoes, and again, something you can grow in your backyard. Once that's simmered a little bit, the secret to this whole dish is something called bagoong. It's a fermented fish and shrimp paste that is an acquired taste. And
you have to say the name again. I already lost it.
Yeah, it's bagoong. Now, it's hard to find one without MSG. They do have the bottles that don't have MSG, but I was kind of lazy because with that other bottle, you have to prepare it yourself and it goes a long way. It costs less, but you have to know how to prepare it.
Hold that up maybe so viewers can see the name, Dr. CK? That'd be great.
Bagoong.
Yeah.
Right. And I noticed you said that's the secret. So if one is vegetarian or has allergies, is there something else you can substitute?
You can just do the soy sauce.
Just use the soy
sauce.
So
it's really, this is the salt to the dish. And so usually people will do a combination of this with a fish sauce. But if you are allergic to fish, please don't use that. Go to a soy-based. You can use soy sauce in this dish or just salt. And again, we want less salt, so you can actually put more flavor in it and use less salt by using more onions and garlic to compensate. Now, what I like to do is keep things simple. I prepared pork, but I'm trying to move away from meat. But a lot of Filipinos use pork. So with the pork, I actually prepared it separately in my air fryer, but you could just cook it over a stir fry oven until it's fully cooked, until it's crisp and it's very brown. I also like to use shrimp. And if you see here, I have the shrimp heads. So that's the other key. If you're going to use a shrimp, if you don't have the bagoong, you can actually just use the shrimp heads and saute that with the onions and the garlic and the tomato to really pull that shrimp flavor through. The shrimp body, I deveined, but that will be added at the very end because I don't like it overcooked.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'd be so scared to overcook it. I'd only put it at the end. So, but you get the flavor in that.
But yeah, you keep the shrimp heads there. And I just tell my kids, just pick out the shrimp heads. But I mean, in a lot of Asian dishes, the shrimp heads really make the difference. And again, the classic way this dish is prepared is actually not with meat. It's actually just... because in the Philippines, they didn't really have a lot of, you don't want to give up your meat. You want to use the fish because sometimes that animal can help you with a lot of other things, right? You don't want to give up that animal for food too suddenly. So you can also do tofu. I haven't tried this dish with tofu, but I mean, it can easily be substituted if you can't.
That sounds like something I'd try.
Meat, yeah. So after you sauteed all of this, this is where either you put your meat or your shrimp heads together with your saute. Then after that, you're going to put the green beans and the squash together. And you're going to put some stock, either just water or some stock to allow the vegetables to cook. So different recipes will say 5-6 minutes, but honestly, it changes. It depends on the altitude, what type of day. Like some of these vegetables take a little bit longer than you expect. But basically, once I use a fork when I'm testing it out, after about 5 minutes, I'll test out and see if the squash is still hard. So if I can't put my fork through it, it needs a little bit more time.
Yeah.
So if you happen to have leftovers, which is unlikely, sounds like it's really good, would you be able to, is it just as good the next day?
Yes.
So just reheat it.
You'd have to reheat it all the
very
way
hot.
through. I'd
165. Mm-hmm. You can get these at the grocery store too.
Perfect.
While you're talking about tools, I think the other thing is great because so much of what we cook with garlic and onion and seafood, I actually for the first time got one of those metal blocks that you can rub your fingers on after you've cut with garlic or onion.
Oh, yeah.
And if I am in like another setting, if you have a stainless steel faucet, you can just rub the faucet and it works like a charm. I never thought that it took away the garlic and onion odor, but it's incredible. Just like wrapping the leftovers in foil to store it so that your whole refrigerator doesn't smell like onion or garlic. It works like a charm. So
I did not know that.
Once this is semi-soft and you could poke your fork a little bit through, that's when I start putting in the shrimp. Okay. So then the shrimp will fully cook and they curl up and become orange. And then by the time that's cooked, and you can poke your fork easily through the squash, then your dish is done. Okay. But that is actually the whole dish. You could change up the different vegetables. You don't have to have the meat. You don't even have to have the shrimp. And you could put it over cauliflower rice if you really don't want the carbs, but it's still a really good dish on its own. So I prepared this dish ahead of time so you can see the final product. But this is actually what the final product looks like. You can see some of that starchiness, but it's pretty aromatic here. I think everybody can smell how wonderful. Hopefully it smells good as much as it tastes, but it's very vibrant.
So you put it, it's more like a soup, or is it more like something you put on top of a brown rice, or a stir fry?
It's like a stir fry that you put over rice. In my culture, the section where my parents came from, I like to make it a little bit more stewy. Okay. So it has a little bit more sauce because I love that I learned to do it over cauliflower rice, but it's actually really good.
Sounds wonderful. Yeah.
Well, this has been so exciting. And I know we've got another video with some additional shopping tips and as we move into Dr. Patricia's recipes. So Dr. CK, that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing a family recipe. I'll have to probably come over and have you demo it again before you send me off on my own to do it, but it looks delicious. Yeah, so please join us as we watch our next video.
There's such a variety of fruit here at the market.
It's so great. I mean, they have some like the classics, right? I got my Honeycrisp apples for my Waldorf salad and my pomegranate and even my persimmons, but the rambutan and
have you ever eaten a rambutan?
Yes, they're like one of my favorites.
So they have this white, fleshy, sweet fruit inside, and you just peel it off, and it's really good. So can't wait to eat that. And then mangosteen is the other one.
Okay, this one I've never eaten. It's going to be beautiful on our table anyway. So tell me.
It's purple, so it has a lot of antioxidant type nutrients. But apparently there's a lot of information online about mangosteen and how it's really healthy for you. Oh. I haven't really eaten it, but I know my mother loves it. This is cherry moya.
I have never had that one either. It's beautiful.
This is one of my mom's favorite fruits. Okay. And she says it's like an apple, but I don't know that I agree. But it's sweet.
But when we get back and we cook our meal, let's use them for decoration, but let's also put some, cut some up and taste some. I mean, this is exciting. And I've only had the dragon fruit in that color. What's that one like?
So this one looks just like the red dragon fruit. It's a golden dragon fruit, but when you open it up, it's white with black seeds. And also it's not too sweet, but it's different. It's crunchy and flavorful.
Huh. Okay, and then I enjoy comparing, right?
And we were talking earlier about the jackfruit.
That's my favorite.
So many Asian markets will have the jackfruit, and it can come in the frozen section. It can come in a can, like you were saying.
I found them in a can. The non-ripe ones that they use as a meat substitute, but not the fruit flavored one.
So in its full form, this is what it looks like. Doesn't look pretty, but when you cut it up, you have to be very careful. You have to oil your knife because it comes with a sticky glue-like substance that can really ruin your knife and your cutting board.
Yeah, and your floor, right?
Right.
I think we had a bunch of newspaper out when we did it with one of our interns, and it was a mess, but it was delicious. I mean, it tastes like juicy fruit gum, right? I think that's what I remember.
Yes. Yeah. When it's really ripe, it does.
Okay.
But it can also be unripe and be used almost like a pulled pork for vegetarian dishes.
Oh, I haven't done the pulled pork. That's a good idea. I put it in my chili.
Yeah, a lot of vegetarians will cook it up like pulled pork.
Well, welcome back to Your Health Matters at OC. I'm kind of excited to show you this recipe because when we discussed doing this show, we talked about all the different childhood memories we had. So my first recipe is going to be something called Waldorf salad. And I've literally been making this for my family since I was 5 years old. So this is definitely something kids can do. And it's something I do with my patients because it's great. Kids can get involved. And it's a great gateway into getting them to eat salads.
And also I wanted to mention, I see we have all these beautiful vegetables. I'm used to in this kitchen having fake foods. We always have fake foods. They don't smell like anything. They're no fun. They are fun, but not fun like this. I wish you could all smell it. It smells really good. So you might have noticed we have a clean cutting board. We swapped it out because the difference, we've been talking about cooking temperatures. You have to cook it hot. We've been talking about cooling it back down properly, reheating it. Now we're into foods that are not going to be cooked. So that means they're ready to eat. And once foods are ready to eat, you really have to take extra care in washing your hands, washing the fruits and vegetables under clean water, clean running water, right? Because these aren't going to get cooked before you eat it. So there's, additional potential for getting foodborne illness. Yeah. So these are all properly washed and we have clean utensils, clean hands, and clean cutting board.
Yay. Okay, so we did it all right. I know, because I've heard that you can soak your fruits and vegetables in water, either put sometimes I'll put fresh lemons or I'll put a little bit of white vinegar. Is that a normal thing?
That helps lower the pH, which helps prevent bacteria from growing. Yeah. So that's a good step.
Well, I feel like my fruits and vegetables last so much longer when I do that. So
right.
I don't,
some of those bacteria are spoilage bacteria. Like when you see the spots on fruit, that usually means you have spoilage bacteria in there. So you also don't want to pick those fruits at the store, which we didn't.
I know, we tried to avoid anyways.
All right.
So Waldorf salad has 3 main ingredients, and I went a little crazy and added a couple too. But the thing that makes it nice for young kids is they can use the measuring cups. So each of the ingredients, for this one, I just did a cup or a cup and a half of each of the ingredients. So these are the walnuts. So they can measure that and learn about measuring things and so forth, all the fun of cooking. And I'm going to add this because this is going to be the last ingredient, but I want to show you apples. So we had, how many different apples did they have?
There were so many apples.
And they were beautiful. Like I've never seen a hot pink apple before, which used to be my favorite color when I was a kid. So taking kids to the produce section and picking out like apples of different colors and shapes and sizes, I think it's great. And, you want to have kids in the kitchen, but you don't want them to get hurt. So one of the things that I love to do, when we do apples is I'll take a nice, beautiful apple like this and I'll actually cut it, squirt myself a little bit, cut it with, one of these, I don't even know what the name of this thing is. This is apple cutter is what we call it at home. And then you can pluck it off. And then boy, you can give a young child a plastic knife. They're not going to cut their fingers off and they can easily cut through the apples and make them the size they need to. And so and the celery too, you can take the celery, and that's one hasn't been washed yet, but you cut it down the middle so it's a little bit easier to cut, because at the end of the day, it's all about getting your kids in the kitchen, getting them involved with the meals. Who cares if it's not all perfectly all the same size? So you make the celery a little bit smaller and the kids can cut that with the plastic knives. Like I said, we don't need Band-Aids at the Thanksgiving table. We want to make sure this is healthy.
I might adopt some of this for my trainees.
Yeah, no, it's great.
It's a safe approach, right?
It makes it easy. And then I had some fun. Like I added some pomegranate seeds, which are just fun to have around anytime. So I put like a half a cup of that in. And then persimmons, we saw some beautiful persimmons. And I know Dr. CK, you were telling me, I know it once I eat it and I'm like, oh, it's not the one I like. So which is the one this is the good one, the sweet one. There's another one that's kind of chalky or
I think it's called Fuji. I'm not sure. I'm forgetting, but there's a taller version of the persimmon.
Yes.
And it can be, it makes your tongue stick to the walls of your mouth.
Yeah.
I like these persimmons better.
Yeah, these are nice and sweet ones. These are the shorter, squattier ones. I picked the ones that were nice and firm and not bruised. Just cut them up. So we took them and we put them in little pieces. And then, so the ingredients were apples, celery, walnuts. And then I added a little bit of pomegranate and persimmons. And it's just this beautiful colored salad. And then the key is, and the other fun part about this is, you don't want your apples to get brown. So, and we have fun because I have a lemon tree, but you take your lemons and you squeeze them on, and that not only keeps your apples from getting brown, it's also your dressing. So when you hear about Waldorf salad, there's a very mayonnaise, sour cream, kind of Cool Whip kind of dressing. I just put fresh lemon. I have a girlfriend that she does lemon zest, like she'll do the lemon peel and to brighten her vegetables, and that you can also do that. But just squeezing lemon on it, like I said, it's going to keep the apples from getting brown, and it's also going to just give it that fresh taste. So we love that. And so that's a staple, and that lasts for you think, oh, how long could that last in the fridge? It can last like a whole week, especially if you get those lemons on and keep them in the fridge. So,
and you want to cover it when you put it in the fridge. Cover it.
Yes.
One, it doesn't uptake taste from other foods. We talked about that. It also helps keep it fresh.
Oh, that's a great point. So the other thing I thought is I have a mother that's from Belgium. So I thought I would show a little Brussels sprout recipe. So we just took the Brussels sprouts and I just cut them up really thinly. And then I just put them on this pie tray. I had some fun. So I'll talk about the yams in a little bit. So I did put some purple yams on here, but I was like, maybe we could add the persimmon to this, because the Brussels Brussels sprouts I love, but it can be a little bitter. So I know my sister has a recipe with Brussels sprouts and she uses dates. And I'm like, I'm going to try persimmon. So I thought it would make it look more fall anyways. And like I said, with kids, like if you have a bunch of different things, like they may want to try the fruit, they might not eat the vegetable, but they, might be getting guilty by association. They might end up eating the whole thing. And then I just took some purple yams. So we found these beautiful yams. Or sweet potatoes and yams. So this one that looks so white on the outside, it actually, when you cut it, it's been oxidized a little bit. But look how beautiful.
Look at those colors.
Yeah. I mean, the colors are just amazing. So it makes it fun. It made for a colorful dish. So and the big thing is, put a little olive oil on before you do it, and you can stir it up together in another pan, and then put it in your pie plate. You can do this on like cooking sheet. You can cook it on anything. And then just go good old fashioned sea salt and pepper. I just put a little bit on and people can add it. But, we talk about like low salt diets, but everything we're eating is so clean. There's nothing processed or packaged or anything. So you don't need to low salt. Like you can get a sea salt that has some good minerals in it and you can use it to add to your food. And if you have people that at your house that they put the salt on before they even taste it, then don't put the salt on or if they have an issue with it. But for most people, none of these foods naturally have salt in them. So you're just adding a little bit of salt and that's great. So the last thing.
Yeah, what is that?
Okay. So this was my learning curve at the 99 Ranch Market. So I actually snuck out ahead of you guys and I was like, okay, I want to get some. So I was like, oh my gosh, all the beautiful colored, sweet potatoes and these purple, potatoes and so forth and yams. I was like, what's this guy? And so, I found this mountain yam. There's other names for it. Can you guys think of the other names?
So in Japanese, it's nagaimo.
Yes, nagaimo. So that was, okay. So there's a whole story that goes with this, but at the end of the day, I learned a lot. And this is what's so fun, getting on the internet, learning about things. So I brought all this stuff home. The first night I made some Brussels sprouts and I roasted some of this mountain yam. Well, the mountain yam, I don't know if you can see it. I'm putting gloves on. I have a lot of respect for the skin on this thing now. You put my gloves on. I'm just So the skin, it just looks a little prickly. But for me with nutrition, I'm always all about eat the skin, especially with things in the potato family. The healthiest part of the potato is the skin, or the sweet potato is the skin. So I thought, well, I'm just going to cook the whole thing. So I sliced it up and I roasted it just like I did my yams. And, I had a few and they were fine. Then the next day I was like, oh, this is amazing. And I made a whole plate of them. And I even had my mom try some. And then my throat started getting scratchy. And needless to say, I called Poison Control, which everybody should have that number on hand.
That's not the kind of food safety you want to deal with.
I know, right? And it turns out, and I was reading online, I'm like, I heard you can eat it raw, you can eat it cooked, I'm like, why does my throat feel scratchy? And I was looking through the recipes, I'm like, nobody said you had to peel it. But I don't see any recipe where they didn't peel it. So live and learn. So, and the thing about peeling it that I was not excited about, I had read that it's just really slimy. So I was like, why do I even deal with it? And we're going to eat the skin. So don't eat the skin on the mountain yam. That's the lesson at the end of the day. And when you handle it, use gloves. And so I did read about, and this is my poor throat probably had to go through this, but, when you, even touching the skin, especially when you're cutting it and peeling it, you can get a rash or irritation. So they recommend to use a white vinegar, to help with that. So, but I'm going to show you guys because now I know, and I've played with this and I can do it, I swear. So I'm just going to take off the peel and yeah, you go away from me, Mr. Mountain Yam. You guys, am I the only person that's had a thing like this with food? I feel like
no. I'll confess, mine was unfortunately something as simple as a jalapeno.
Yeah.
But the first time I was assisting with cutting one, I didn't have gloves, and I didn't realize the transference of heat. And unfortunately, as I was cutting, one of the seeds flew up and it actually got caught under my contact.
Oh no.
And it was a whole eyewash scenario. This probably could have been one of my early events of why I shied away from cooking, to say the least.
Oh my
But
gosh.
I think it's an important reminder, right? If we're handling something, whether it's a skin or something that could have spice, I'm sure a lot of our cooks and watchers know, like, you got to protect yourself with the gloves. And it just never would have even crossed my mind that that would be an issue that could be transdermal. You
What
know?
came to mind when you initially told me about this while we were waiting outside the grocery store was cassava root. When you showed me the picture, I was horrified because I was thinking cassava root looks very similar, although the skin is darker. That root, you need to, one, peel off the skin and cook it thoroughly. You should not eat cassava root raw because it's poisonous.
Isn't that cyanide? Is that what you told me about?
Yeah. So cassava root, really great root vegetable. You can use it in many different dishes, but usually it's cooked. So I think the learned lesson here is when you're new to different ingredients,
Yes.
learn more about the ingredient before you handle it to make sure you're taking all the precautions to keep yourself safe.
Yeah. And like I said, I mean, there was an absence of information and I kind of extrapolated something I knew. And at that point I was like, I should have talked to one of the dietitians on my team or somebody else. And so it was just it was an eye opener.
Great.
So, I'm just going to put these on the plate.
Sure.
And like I said, they're pretty slimy, but they're delicious. And I can show you one that I made with a bunch of different colored yams. We've got the mountain yam,
Wonderful.
and then we've got the purple and the sweet potato and all different ones. So it's just different color, getting kids involved with different colors. So
beautiful.
well, thanks.
And really, I mean, seriously, such a nice fall array too, that I'm sure, like, looking at, all of the different seasons, being able to do that. So very much appreciate the expertise with that too, as we're looking at food and et cetera. So I think we're at a point where this has been such a great experience, all of these different things that we've cooked. And we actually have a fantastic video that we want to show you to remessage and drive home some of the points that Gree made as far as food safety. So with that, please stay with us as we now show you a video capturing all the important details of food safety.
We all do our best to serve our families food that's safe, especially during the holidays. But did you know there are 48 million cases of foodborne illness each year? 1 in 6 Americans gets sick yearly, 120,000 are hospitalized, and 3,000 die. We all hear advice about food safety. Some is true, but other information is just plain wrong. Let's clear up some myths. To protect my family while making food after being sick, all I need to do is wash my hands. Washing helps, but this doesn't wash off all the germs. Use barriers like spoons, tongs, or gloves. Better yet, if possible, ask another family member to do the cooking when you are ill. I don't need to wash my hands if I use sanitizing gel. Hand sanitizer has actually been shown in studies to be less effective than traditional hand washing. Stick to using soap and warm water and scrub for 20 seconds. Rinsing meats like chicken and beef will remove the bacteria. Rinsing raw meats with water has been proven to be ineffective at removing bacteria. In fact, rinsing off the meats causes a cross-contamination hazard by splashing around the bacteria. You should still wash bagged, ready-to-eat, washed, or triple-washed greens. Rinsing ready-to-eat greens won't make them safer, but could actually increase the potential for cross-contamination. Germs that may be on your hands or on kitchen surfaces could find their way onto your greens. I don't need a thermometer. I can tell when my food is cooked by looking at it. The only way to really know when a food is cooked and safe to eat is by taking a temperature. Minimum cooking temperatures are necessary to ensure that bacteria in raw meats and other foods are killed. Make sure your foods are cooked to these temperatures. Once food has been cooked, all the bacteria have been killed. No more need to worry. The possibility of bacterial growth actually increases after cooking because the drop in temperature allows bacteria to thrive. This is why keeping cooked food hot and the right temperature is critical. Don't put hot food right into the refrigerator. It'll spoil. You actually want to cool extra food off as quickly as possible. This helps minimize the amount of time that food is at an unsafe temperature, which reduces the amount of bacteria. Place food in a shallow, uncovered container in the refrigerator, in an ice bath, or by adding ice directly to it. Want more food myths? Visit ocfoodinfo.com for more awesome food safety tips.
Welcome back to Your Health Matters. As you can see, we've come into a new location, and this is our time now that we get to celebrate the fruits of our labor, literally, from all of the great cooking that we did together. So we want to welcome you back. And before we talk a little bit more about our table, I want Dr. Patricia to share with us how important the environment of where you eat is as well. So with Dr. Patricia, can you share a little bit more about our beautiful tablescape here?
Yes, and I will say that my mom, Nicole, helped with the table, and she usually does. She's amazing at it. But it's a great time for the kids to get involved. So like these are literally from a bay leaf tree that was in my mom's yard. We just got some different decorations. We found some leftover ribbon from Christmas. And so this is another way that kids can be artistic and the family can get together and share traditions and so forth. I even made a fun drink for Orange County. So we have these oranges, which if you get really firm oranges, you can cut them and you cook them for about 200, about an hour, and then you rotate them and then do another hour, about 2 hours, and you can put them in your drink. And we already put some pomegranates in here, and which is sparkling water. So you can make like a festive drink. The kids can help with this. You could put mint in here so you even have more holiday colors. So that's kind of exciting. No, we're not going to do a toast yet, are we?
No.
I got ahead of myself. I'm sorry, Jenna.
We're going to get there, though.
Okay.
Thank you so much. But for all of you watching at home, we just want to say a big thank you from our HCA family, certainly to Dr. Patricia and to her mom for your expertise and sharing with us, and to our colleagues over in environmental health, Gree and certainly Darwin and Christine. We really appreciate all of the work that you do in letting us come into your space to demonstrate cooking. So thank you so much. Dr. CK, always. Thank you for your expertise as well. We also want to give another big thanks to our friends at the 99 Ranch Market. It was such a wonderful experience for all of us, and they've got a huge variety of unique fruits and vegetables. And for anyone who is a little cooking challenge, perhaps like me, they also have an amazing fresh hot deli section in their store as well that you could stop by and pick something up, especially around this time of year when we're all so busy. We want to thank Kevin and Chris and the whole staff who were so helpful on our shopping experience. You'll be able to find copies of our recipes that we shared on our talk show website, which is available at ochealthinfo.com/Your Health Matters. And you can also download the food safety tips that Gree shared with us. Before we wrap up, I do want to give a shout out to another event that's happening this week. This Thursday is the Great American Smokeout. This is a day that the American Cancer Society encourages anyone who is using tobacco to start their journey to a smoke-free life. You'll be joining thousands of people across the country to take this step together. And in Orange County, you can call 1-866-NEW-LUNG to sign up for classes and get support. So please take advantage of this incredible resource. Our next episode of Your Health Matters will air on November 29th. While the holidays can be full of joy, it also can be a really stressful time and very challenging for some of our families. So during this episode, we'll be talking about positive mental health during the holidays and what you might be able to do to decrease your stress and to deal with some emotional triggers. So, as always, we want to make sure that your health matters. Everything that we do here is to support all of you in your environment, and we want to thank you so much for being here. We want to wish you and your families the happiest of holidays and a very happy and safe Thanksgiving. And in closing this evening, Dr. Patricia, could you please offer up a toast?
Okay, finally, yay! From our family to yours, happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.